Blade a little bit, and I will say there is quite a bit of a learning curve. I almost feel like he's at the state. I feel like he does need a buff, but he needs not as big of a buff as some people might think. Um, I really do think it's quite early. I've spent 26 hours playing Blade. I actually one tricked him. I went from GM1 to Diamond 3. I'm a really bad DPS. I usually play tank and support, so it was a really big like adjustment for the playstyle and all that stuff. But I got myself back up right now. Right now I'm in GM3. I'm one win away from GM2, and I'll probably keep climbing as I get better at the character. But I am 26 hours in. I'm not overall that great at DPS, but I'm making it work. So I wanted to give a few kind of examples on his playstyle. First off, the buff that I think that he needs, his self-healing reduction of 40%, I really do feel that it needs to be nerfed, or sorry, buffed to 30%, I suppose, or reduced, because there are some really silly interactions where a cloak and dagger can stand in her bubble and just do damage to you in cloak form, and you with 10 stacks of charge, you will not beat them one on one. And most of the time, when you're in that situation, someone's going to peel, their other support's going to heal them, something's going to happen, right? But you're going to take more damage than the cloak and dagger, despite you being at 10 charge. So it's really now, of course, that is a skill issue because I should have gone in with the first charge and done the anti burst, and then gone in with the second charge to charge up my DPS and et cetera, et cetera. So it is a skill issue, but it is just the really silly interaction, right? That kind of stuff is something that really shouldn't happen. A support shouldn't be able to out DPS a DPS, unless their main function is to be a DPS like an Adam, right? An Adam one shot is perfectly fair because he doesn't have a crap ton of heals, right? But again, another weird interaction with Blade is that you can 1v1 a Thor. And you can 1v1 an Iron Fist, and it is kind of here and there, but I mean, you can't 1v1 one of the best supports in the game, but you can 1v1 one of the, really bad support, or sorry, really bad DPS like an Iron Fist, or a really bad tank like a Thor. So it's not really saying much. So I think that reduction in that heal reduction from 40 to 30% is going to allow him to be a little bit more sustainable, but not a tank. Because he is riding that really fine line of being able to do a ton of damage and not being overpowered. So anyways, this is one of the situations that I wanted to give an example of. First off, of how tanky he can be. So right here, obviously, I turn off. If you look at the bottom right corner, I turn off my vampiric form. Right, I honestly don't even know what it's called. I'm just going to call it vampire form. But this is where I get reduced healing. Right, so I pop the bubble. You guys can see it's just I am the front line right here. We're down a teammate. I actually don't even know where my other teammate is. Our tank is over there for some reason, peeling for an Iron Fist. That's none of his business. He's solo tanking. But yeah, so I can frontline here. I back up a little bit, just do a little bit of DPS. I'm not. There's nothing here that can one-shot me, right? Like I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have made that decision if this was Emma or if this was Thing or something like that, right? These people. I mean, sure, a Hawkeye can one-shot me, but it's GM2, GM3, whatever, right? I'm stupid. It's a skill issue, right? So I almost get rolled right here. So this is the example I want to set of when it's a really good idea to anti the tanks. Now, in this case, the Strange is over there on the right. Our team is being aggressive, right? The Moon Knight is ulting, but it doesn't really matter like what the semantics are, right? Whether he's ulting or somebody else is ulting, or we're just all focusing that one target. Putting the heal reduction on this group does lead to him dying, of course, so this is the perfect time to use it. And because of the positioning of my team, right, we have Loki ulting, we have a Cloak and Dagger over here, we have our Strange over here, and we have this ult right here that's kind of splitting off the team. But just a bunch of triggers for me to go in and be able to go and go aggressive and build up my charge. So he's still getting a little bit of healing, but that 40% is what really does it. So that's kind of example number one there. This is meant to show off kind of how Blade can be a semi-tank, but not really. So in this example, the Invis pushes me back. I know that they're down one because we just killed Mr. Fantastic. I go in, I use a dash. Now I want to go in and make some space, so I'm gonna shield. I'm gonna get my cooldown back, and I'm gonna anti the Magneto. And you guys see the vision there though, right? So we go in. Oh shit! Did I just teleport? I think I did. I move forward. I block, make space, draw some attention. They know they can't exactly kill me because I have our full team right here, and they're down a teammate. Plus, our team is portaling, so again, a semi-efficient use of resources. I probably should have blocked a little bit longer so that I can get the full cooldown reduction. So with now knowing that blade survivability is not really all that great, when is it a good time for you to go in with your sword and actually go and try and do as much DPS as possible? For me, the rule is if you can't commit the one dash cooldown to ramp up your damage, it's really not worth it. So, quick example here. This one's kind of obvious because I'm going to use my ultimate, but right here, we're all in the middle of the ultimate here. I'm full health. I know that if I go in, I'm not going to be at a ton of risk because there's already a lot of healing going around, and because I can land my dash, I'm able to get to 10 charges pretty quickly. So if I wasn't able to land my dash, there's pretty much no reason for me to take out the sword because I'm just debuffing myself, right? For no particular reason. Now, I go in, use one of my cooldowns so that I can anti the magic, and then I ult. I still have my dash, so I go back in, get the damage, finish off the Emma, etc., etc. Yeah, unless you're able to safely commit your dash, you really don't want to be using your sword that much because you're just not going to be doing a ton of damage. Now, if you're a straggler, right, and the fight's pretty much over, and the only way for you to get back to spawn is for you to get that tiniest bit of lifesteal, maybe win a 1v1, possibly, but for the most part, if your team is dead, you just die with them. You know, it's not always worth it. When it's a good idea for you to go and use your blade here. So I can hear that the Strange is portaling over there. They're starting to run back. So it looks like the pressure is going to alleviate a little bit from behind me. My team's already all kind of set up right here. We're just kind of waiting for the point. I know that our supports have support ultimates, so if for some reason they can't heal me in time, I still have my block, I still have full cooldowns and all that stuff. So I'm just waiting for the Strange to portal. I hear it. I see him come in. So it's okay for me to commit this cooldown because let's look at my position over here. We have teammate on the right, teammate on the left. They're about to kill that Iron Fist over there. It's just two people over there, but even if it was the whole team, I'm at a place right here where I'm not going to miss. I'm going to get full lifesteal and full DPS on everything, and our teammates are going to be here to support me. So I do get knocked back a little bit. My support ults. We're doing okay. So I gotta take off that stuff. And my DPS is just crap, and then we try and focus the invis here. I think I'm able to block that. No, I think the cloak saved me, but yeah. Putting the heal reduction on the invis. This is something no other champion has been able to do in the game up until then, and we were able to force her to use her abilities, and we do eventually kill her. Niche situation where you might find it to be a good idea for you to use your blade. So I'm gonna be frontline here. I know my friendly Thing is on the other side. I know Thing is gonna ult. I have my block, so I'm gonna slow it down here a little bit. I get the invincibility here for a second. Now the reason I decide to go in right now is because when you're Thing and you ult people and you actually get the stun, your reaction is gonna be to go in and do damage, right? But because I go in right here, I'm gonna be the main damage dealer to him, the main threat to him. So if he wants to go do damage to the people behind me, he probably still could, but he has to deal with me chunking him and chunking him and chunking him down. So I know it's not exactly that I'm safe, but it's more so if he looks at me, then my other team will be safe so that by the time that they recover from the stun, they're able to heal me, and I can, by then I will have built up charge, and at 10 charge, I can do a little bit more DPS here. I'll have the sustain. I'll be able to go in and help everybody out here. So because of that, I don't get the kill on the Emma, but again, it's a very niche situation. But I just remember it distinctly, it being more of a trigger in my mind that okay, I block the stun. I'm going to be the main center of attention right here so that he doesn't attack the people that are behind me, and then hopefully that'll be enough to distract him for 1 or 2 seconds, and I don't, explode. So again, the only reason that was possible was because my tank was also on the front line as well, drawing attention. So you'll see he's like literally right here. So anybody that's like in front of him, behind him, etc., they're probably going to be looking at him. So I have the opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive and tanky and use all 350 of my HP. Your positioning. So you have, because of the way that you're able to play the game, with your gun, with your range, and your sword for the close range, you're going to notice that I position myself up here so that I can, number one, break this barrier and poke a little bit. But at this range, my gun is really just not going to do that much damage. It's mostly just to see where where everybody walks to, and to see what their team composition is. So now that I've seen what they're running, I'm going to go backwards here, go on a little flank, and I take out the sword so that I can walk a little bit faster, and I scout a little bit, right? I looked a little bit to the left, I saw what was around here, I noticed that the healing orb was coming over here from the rocket, so that I knew that the rocket was here completely by himself. So it's your positioning, really important. So just and getting a lay of the land, of course, is also really important to kind of help judge what you do on your engages. Now, we pretty much lose this. I disengage here. But yeah, that was the point that I was trying to make is to try and position, especially here, like where I am right now, I'm not just bunched up with the rest of my team. Right, because there's no point in doing just a bunch of useless damage to the tanks. That's just going to get healed up immediately, so I might as well do a little bit of damage. And then I overextend. This is completely my fault. Skill issue. I wanted to give an example of how you can kind of play dive with him a little bit here. So this is the part. This is the start of the fight. The round just started. I'm just running towards the back line. I do see in the corner that we do get a kill, so I just go in and commit the cooldown. Now she has her jump. Now, here's the thing. Because of how much damage I'm taking, look at that, 130 health, I turn off the vampiric form, and I go full block. She's doing a ton of damage to me at this point, but I'm getting back my cooldowns like super, super fast. So my goal is just to get to cover as quickly as possible. And because of all the damage I was able to block, I mean, I got as low as 27%. This was a really bad example, but again, my main example is how can you go in, you make a little bit of space, draw some attention, disengage. I got very, very low, so for the most part, it was just luck. But that's how you're supposed to be cycling your cooldowns here, is blocking all the aggression, getting back your cooldown. If you have Cloak Bubble, that helps, of course. And honestly, I think that Cloak Bubble might have saved my life here. And but yeah, because of that, I have 2 cooldowns to go out. I was mostly kind of staggering around a little bit because I thought, okay, well, they're down a teammate. My team is going to be able to move up, and so they did eventually were able to save my life here. So, yeah, that's a quick. The point is not always to get a kill. The point is, just draw attention, draw resources, make space. Because the Invis wasn't able to heal the rest of their team my team was able to pull up here. So, yeah, that's the example number 1. Okay, another quick example of sort of his divey playstyle. So, the match just started. This is domination. I'm just walking to backline. I see the Magneto. I probably shouldn't have shot him, but I wanted to make him think that I walked away. He's, has more important things to do as a tank. So I walk to the backline. I see if there's anybody here that I can shoot. And lo and behold, we have a low Luna. So in this situation, I didn't really see the fight. I wasn't paying attention too much, right? But I can assume that if she's low, if she's backing up, there's a good chance that you probably don't have full cooldowns, and there's a good chance that I can kill you. So I'm gonna slow it down a little bit here. I go into my blood form and immediately commit the commit the cooldown, and I commit both of them because even if I die here, DPS for a support is always going to be worth it. And they end up shooting me here, and I think I actually survived that. Yeah, but yeah, it's a good example of how you if you do play dive, you got to be really careful with your engages, but you're looking for the same triggers that you would as if you were playing Black Panther or Spider-Man or whatever. It's all about looking for resources essentially. Example of the ultimate here. So when you use your ult, I think it does 100 damage instantly, and then like a couple hundred over time once you stay in that area. So it's good to combo, but it's also good as a finisher. If there's a support that's like really not dying, or you know that there's support ultimate coming up and you want to prevent them from triggering it, or it's also a good initiator, which I'll show another example of in a few seconds. But here, normally you don't always want to ult the tanks if they're full health. Because sure, the damage with the healing reduction, but like I mentioned, the 40% is just not enough to get somebody low enough here. So I go in, charge up my my blade a little bit instead of the anti. I probably should be putting the anti on there, but I figured if my team is behind me and we're all looking at these targets, it's going to be really easy for us to chunk them down regardless of whether or not they're getting healing. So I go in, charge my ult, and you're going to see that I jump here so I can get a little bit of space. So that way when I go straight, I jump over the cart, and then all this area right here gets the spell field. So you'll see I cover a much larger range right here because I don't get stopped by the cart as long as I jump high enough. I hit the right side and the left side plus everybody who's in it, and I get the insta kill of the Invis, I think, and the Magneto. I actually don't know who I soloed, who I end up killing. Give me a second. Yeah, so it's the Magneto. Yeah. Practically a triple. And then after that, it's just about cleaning up, but somehow you're not going to believe my team actually lost that. And so I just came in, cleaned it up a little bit. This was a really hard 1v1 to win. And again, skill issue, my aim is garbage. And then they went thing, and I just kind of panicked. Yeah, but again, it's just a mediocre example of when to use your ultimate, particularly on tanks. Because for the most part, it is a lot more effective on squishier targets. Another quick example of how you want to use ultimate, you could use it as a zoning tool. So in this case, we're rolling, of course, so I just kind of use it frivolously. But in situations where you are able to set up in a way that you know that the team is going to back up under a certain amount of pressure or whatever, you ult this whole lane over here. I get the blade, but I also get the thing who obviously has no choice but to walk backwards. So it's a really good zoning tool right here, not just to cut off to cut off supports or to get the kill or whatever, but if they're inevitably going to walk down here, it's a good way to apply a ton of pressure. Everyone's going to want to move. You can't really avoid it. So as long as the setup is good, it's a good way to get a couple kills here. It's another good example of how you want to use your ultimate, just right off the rip. So a good way so just as the setup, you guys can see that we're in the pre-fight here. Like they're walking up, we're walking up. I go backline because I have 91% ult charge, and I know exactly what I want to do. So I'm just gonna go back here. I'm gonna build up ult charge. This is diamond, so forgive that. But what I'm going to do, essentially the point is to apply the heal reduction, of course, save my 2 dashes so that I can go back into the area that I just hit and slow them down so that they don't walk out very easily. And most of the time you are able to do enough damage to cut somebody off here. So we're going to let it go back to full speed. I'm going to cover this entire lane. Now the reason I'm aiming it this way is because if they walk backwards, they're going to be out of line of sight of the rest of their team. If they walk this way, then Cap's already here. If they want to walk forward, well, this is most of the space that the ultimate's going to be in. So this is kind of prime location. So I hit him with it. The Luna dies. I go in. The Ultron is already antied. I can get him out of the sky. And then it's a pretty easy fight win at that point, moving forward with no supports. So you ult backlines when you have both of your dashes. You zone an area that you know that they're gonna need to walk up to either touch or to win, and then you try and pick off at least one support. It is a pretty good idea. I mean, it might change in the higher ranks. Of course, I am just barely reaching GM, and this is a diamond moment. But ulting the backline, applying all that pressure is a really good way to zone off an area. Anti-heal and create an opening for any potential divers or anybody to go in and hopefully finish the kill on the backline that you just ulted. This is a really good example of when not to use your ult. So I have been in the backline for a little while, right? Like just trying to kill this this raccoon, trying to kill the cloak and dagger, right? I'm applying a bunch of pressure. You should not be using Blade's ult as a response to support ultimates. It's just not that strong. And you're going to see right now, again, skill issue, I'm still more or less learning the character. I think for some reason it's a good idea to go in. Now, I see the vision, right? I do see that Cloak and Dagger is low. She has no fade anymore. I could probably go in for the kill, but the thing is, I wasted a ton of space right here, hitting absolutely no one for the possibility of maybe getting the kill right here when I never killed the raccoon. He was still alive. He just put in his support ultimate. Like it's just a waste. Just a big waste. And as you can see, nothing happens. I do a little bit of damage, but everyone survives. Now, what does end up happening is they hear my ultimate go off, and everybody does come back a little bit, but it's just not worth the resources, right? This ultimate's really strong, and there are much better ways to use it. So this is another example. This is more of like a skill check of what not to do when you're using your blade form against triple support in this example specifically. So I go in, I know I hit the atom, I'm already in my blade form, I have my slash, I go in for the atom. This one's a pretty easy kill, but you're gonna see right here when I try and kill the Luna and the Cloak, I'm just not able to kill them. What I should have done instead right here is, instead of committing another dash just to do another 10 damage that's going to get healed, I should have applied the anti-heal to at least one of them, or probably disengage. So when people say that Blade is weak because you can't win situations like this, I mean, this really is a skill check. This is not a fight that you're supposed to win, and you're probably not going to win with most champions. So just to kind of clear up a little bit, I don't want Blade's self-heal reduction to be so low, to be so high that he could, infinitely survive. In that situation, he does need to die. He can't just live forever. But again, skill check. This is when you play the character, the anti-heal is just as important, especially when diving backlines, as your DPS. Decent example of what I kind of don't want the character to do. So when if they do decide to buff his survivability. I'm in a really interesting situation right here. So I am getting healed. I do get the rocket healing. But I decided to go in. I didn't really exactly want to commit because we're still in the pre-fight, but I decided, shit, I see the other tank coming. My best way to survive this was gonna be through doing damage. But if it weren't for the mag bubble, I should die. I really should. And if I have more survivability, it's not like I'm probably not gonna survive this engage anyway, but when you're fighting two tanks, even if you are cleaving and getting more damage and getting more lifesteal, this is really not a situation that you should be surviving. So this is something that once people get to learn the character a little bit more, you're gonna know that if you're fighting both tanks on the front line or in any situation whatsoever, you're probably not in the right area. I probably should be in the back line or doing something other than fight the thing, because he's just not gonna die. This whole interaction, I go do a ton of damage and he just doesn't die, right? Because he's essentially a blade counter. So again, decision making, target priority are really important things to do as Blade. how do you play Blade? And it's just complicated. You can play frontline, but you can't always play frontline. You can play backline. You can be a diver, but you can't always play dive. You can't always play dive, right? It just kind of depends on their composition. And I think Blade is one of those. Really, I think it's probably one of the most versatile DPSs in the game because you really do have a lot that you can do, right? The really close range DPS, the long range poke, etc., etc. His main problem, I would say, at the moment is if they go full flyers. That's a really difficult composition to deal with. You are able to ground people sometimes, but it's a little again, it's a skill check, and sometimes if you land it, you might still fall down in an area that's not ideal, and they don't fall all the way to the ground, right? Like this, you'll land it, and they'll fall down for a second, but then they will come back up. So that's probably one of his biggest weaknesses. There are also much bigger counter swaps like the Thing. Emma Frost is a really scary counter. Penny can be a pain in the ass because you can't really get close to her, but you can poke out her mines occasionally. But yeah, it just once you've learned the kits, once you've learned what you can play against and what you can't in the situation, then it becomes easier to adapt. Which is part of the reason that I've been one tricking because it's although it's in ranked, right? People don't want you to play certain things or to say, do certain I don't know, whatever, right? It does kind of force you to play into your counters or to play into what you thought might not have been a good matchup, and then you realize, oh shit, I can actually beat a Thor 1v1, or I can actually. If a thing is mispositioned, then it's a good idea to pull out the sword and just go ham on him. But the sword, for the most part, you are going to be playing with your shotgun most of the time while looking for opportunities where, like I said, where you can safely commit your dash to use your sword. Because again, it's not worth it if you don't have the cooldown, and it's not worth it if you know you're going to die pretty much immediately. So. The short answer is that there is no short answer on how to play Blade. We are still kind of all figuring it out, but as people get on with it, I think we're gonna find that Blade is just kind of at the right. He's at the right. He's balanced. He does a really good amount of damage, and when you fight a really good Blade, you really do feel the pressure as a DPS should. Right, a really good DPS is going to make you feel, like, holy shit, I need to back up, or I'm just taking too much damage, etc., etc. He's oppressive, and there are moments of that Blade can achieve when he's playing, when he's adapted the right way. He does have hard counters, but again, if the tank is countering you, go play, go into the backline and go bother the supports. If they're playing triple support and they have a Namor, then go bother the tanks. Maybe just anti them 24/7, and that's how you play the game, right? But there is a situation again besides maybe flyers. Blade can adapt to almost anything. So once we learn it, I feel like people are going to realize that he's in a good spot, except for the healing reduction from 40 to 30%. I still feel like that would be just the right amount. But yeah, thank you guys. If you guys have any other opinions, just feel free to put them down there. I'm still learning the character along with everybody else, so if you guys have any tips or anything like that, please let me know. Thank you so much. Oh, hold on. I said I was Celestial at some point. Proof or I'm lying. Hold on. Season 2.5. Yeah, Celestial 1. There we go. And I'm on console. And I made it to Grandmaster 1, and then boom, just one trick Blade, as you can see with this awful win rate. It just takes this many games to to learn the character. But yeah, have a good one, everyone.